My jealous ex accused me of cheating and claimed she was pregnant. But it turned out she was the one who cheated on me, and the baby wasn't mine. I'm 28, and lately my life's been an absolute mess. My ex, Sarah, she's 26, and I broke up in a really ugly way about 2 or 3 months ago. We were together for 2 years, and our relationship had been falling apart for a while. And then she pulled something I still can't fully process. A bit of background. I met Sarah through mutual friends at a party. We clicked instantly. The first year together was amazing. We had similar interests, we loved spending time together, and even talked about our future. I'm a software engineer, and Sarah's a graphic designer. We both have demanding jobs, but always found time for each other. In the beginning, we were like a rom-com couple, spontaneous weekend trips, trying new restaurants, lazy Sundays in front of the TV. We introduced each other to our families. Everything looked perfect. My parents adored her, and hers seemed to like me too. But over time, cracks started to show. At first, it was little things. Sarah would comment on how much time I spent at work or how close I was with some of my female friends. I didn't think much of it, figured it was normal. But things escalated quickly. Sarah became more jealous and possessive. She hated it if I even talked to my female friends, even in group settings. She started secretly checking my phone, interrogating me over every message and call. I tried to reassure her, but it never worked. One evening, I went out to dinner with my best friend Mike and his girlfriend. Sarah was supposed to come too, but cancelled last minute because of work. Later that night, she called me crying, accusing me of lying about where I was because she'd seen a Snapchat story from a mutual friend who happened to be at the same restaurant. It took hours to calm her down and convince her I wasn't cheating. Things got worse when a big project started at my job. I worked late, and yes, there were women on the team. Sarah couldn't handle it. She called me 10 times a day, showed up at my office unannounced, even started following me around hoping to catch me doing something. I did everything I could to make her feel secure. I offered to introduce her to my coworkers, turned on location sharing on my phone, even considered dropping the project, but it was never enough. Her constant accusations and distrust were exhausting. The final straw was when she accused me of having an affair with a coworker named Emily. Emily and I were working closely on the project and often stayed late to meet deadlines. Sarah found a couple of work messages and lost it. One night, when Emily and I were alone at the office preparing a presentation, Sarah burst into the meeting room, yelling and crying. She accused Emily of trying to steal me and hurled every insult imaginable. I tried to calm her down, but she was hysterical. She screamed at me and threw a flower pot, thankfully missed. We had to call security to escort her out. I was mortified. Emily was shocked. The next day, I had to explain everything to my boss. He was understanding but made it clear it couldn't happen again. Emily stayed professional, but things were awkward after that. Some coworkers started treating me differently, like I was the guy with the crazy girlfriend. That's when I realized it was over. I took the day off and went to see Sarah to officially break up with her. I explained that the constant accusations and lack of trust were draining me, that her behavior was affecting not just our relationship, but also my job and friendships. She took it terribly. There was yelling, crying, insults. She accused me of never loving her, of using her, of cheating the entire time. She even threw some of my stuff out of her apartment window. It was horrible, to say the least. As I was leaving, she shouted that she'd make me suffer, that she'd ruin my life for breaking her heart. I didn't take it seriously, figured it was just emotions talking. I felt relieved that I finally got out of that relationship. Over the next few weeks, Sarah kept trying to reach out. She'd call, text, show up at places where she knew I might be. Her messages bounced between begging for another chance and threatening to expose me as a supposed cheater. I blocked her number and all social media. Eventually, she seemed to get the message and left me alone. I started getting my life back on track, threw myself into work, got back to the gym, reconnected with friends I'd drifted from while dating Sarah. For the first time in a while, things started feeling normal. Then, last week, I was home. On a Friday night, enjoying the peace. I'd ordered a pizza, opened a beer, settled in to watch a movie, and then there was a knock on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it, and there was Sarah. She looked pale, like she hadn't slept in days. Before I could say anything, she blurted out, "I'm pregnant. It's yours." I was stunned. My first reaction was disbelief. We had always been careful, and given how badly things ended, I couldn't help but think this was some desperate attempt to get me back. I asked how far along she was. She said about 2 months. Thoughts started racing. 2 months ago, we were technically still together, though barely. I tried to recall the last time we'd been intimate, but that entire period was a fog of fighting and tension. I let her in, mostly out of shock. We sat down in the living room. I asked how she knew. She said her period was late. She took a test at home, then went to a doctor to confirm it. I told her I needed time to process. I offered her a glass of water and stepped into the kitchen to collect my thoughts. When I came back, I found her going through my phone, which I'd left on the table. "What the hell are you doing?" I snapped. She jumped and dropped the phone. "I just wanted to check the time." "No, you're doing it again." Checking my phone, like always. I've had enough. I told her that before I could even start to wrap my head around this, I needed proof. I asked for a paternity test. She exploded, accused me of not trusting her, which, ironically, was the entire history of our relationship, and insisted I should believe her without question. "After everything we had, you should know I wouldn't lie about this," she said through tears. But all I could think about was how many times she'd accused me of lying and cheating when I hadn't done anything wrong. I refused to take her word for it. I told her, given how our relationship ended and everything she'd done, I couldn't just believe her. I added that I was willing to discuss things further, but only if she provided medical proof of the pregnancy and agreed to a paternity test. Sarah lost it, called me every name in the book, said I was a coward for not taking responsibility, threatened to tell all our mutual friends and my family that I was abandoning her and the baby. Then she slammed the door and left. Since then, I've been a wreck. I can't focus at work. I sleep terribly. I'm constantly on edge. Part of me wonders, was I too harsh? What if she really is pregnant? But another part of me can't shake the feeling this is just another manipulation tactic. I've spent hours online reading about false pregnancy claims and the legal implications of paternity. I've thought about texting Sarah, but every time I almost do, I remember just how toxic things were and how much lighter I felt after we broke up. I haven't told anyone about this, not my family, not even my best friend Mike. I don't know what to do. Was I wrong for not believing her and demanding proof? Should I have handled things differently? I keep replaying our conversation, wondering if I missed something. She did look different, tired, overwhelmed. But couldn't that just be the aftermath of our breakup and all the drama? And why did she wait 2 months to tell me if she really was pregnant? Shouldn't she have known sooner? I'm terrified she'll go public with this. If my parents thought I abandoned a pregnant woman, they'd be devastated. And my friends? I don't even want to imagine what they'd think. I've always been proud of being reliable, decent. The idea of being labeled as that guy who ditched his pregnant ex just kills me. But at the same time, I can't just blindly believe her. After everything that's happened, I simply don't trust her anymore. And having a child, that's not a small thing. I'm not sure either of us is ready for that, especially given the state of our relationship. I thought about reaching out to our mutual friends to see if they'd heard anything, but I'm afraid that would start a rumor spiral before I even knew what was true. And if Sarah hadn't told anyone yet, I didn't want to be the one to spread a potentially false story. Then there's this other thought, small, but chilling. What if she really is pregnant? I'm not ready to be a dad. Sarah and I had talked about kids, someday, in the distant future, but never seriously. And now the idea of being connected to her for life terrifies me, considering how toxic things got between us. And what if the baby isn't even mine? Considering how fiercely she accused me of cheating, maybe she was projecting? Maybe she had someone else? It's a horrible thought, but I have to consider every possibility. The more I think about it, the more lost and frustrated I feel. It's like I'm cornered, and no option looks good. If I reach out to Sarah to ask more questions, am I just opening myself up to more manipulation? But if I ignore her, what if I'm abandoning a child who really is mine? I know I need to do something, but I feel paralyzed. Every option feels worse than the last. I keep hoping she'll reach out again and agree to the test, or at least give me more information. But so far, nothing. Sometimes I think maybe I should just go along with what she wants, just to avoid the scandal. But I know that's not the answer. If there's really a child involved, they deserve parents who are confident and willing, not someone who's going along just to keep the peace. I even considered consulting a lawyer, but that feels extreme. What if this is all a misunderstanding? Wouldn't it be overkill to bring lawyers in at this point? This whole situation has forced me to reevaluate everything about our relationship. Did I miss red flags? I thought I was the good guy, just trying to prove my loyalty. But maybe that just enabled her behavior. Maybe I should have ended at a long time ago. It's been a week since Sarah showed up at my door, and I still don't have any clarity. Every day feels like a ticking bomb. If she really is pregnant, I'll have to start making decisions soon. But how do you decide anything when you don't even know the basic facts? I keep asking myself, am I the asshole for demanding proof? Should I have been more sensitive? Or was I right to be cautious, given our past? Honestly, I don't know anymore. What would you do in my place? Hey everyone. It's been about 3 weeks since my first post, and a lot has happened. I wanted to share an update on the situation with Sarah and her pregnancy claim. First off, thank you to everyone who commented. Your advice and perspectives really helped me process things a bit. A lot of people said I was right to stand my ground and ask for proof. Others reminded me I needed to be prepared in case Sarah truly was pregnant. After a few days of silence following our blow-up, Sarah texted me. She apologized for her outburst and said she understood why I might have doubts. She agreed to provide medical documentation confirming the pregnancy and to take a paternity test once it was safe. I felt some relief. She seemed more reasonable. Still, I couldn't let my guard down. We arranged to meet at a local coffee shop to talk things through. I picked a public place deliberately. I didn't want any more drama. When we met, Sarah looked completely different from that night at my place. She was calm, composed. She handed me an envelope with ultrasound images and a medical statement confirming her pregnancy. According to the documents, she was about 10 weeks along, which matched what she had told me earlier. Seeing those pictures, I can't even describe the flood of emotions. It felt real. Or at least it seemed that way. We talked for a few hours. Sarah told me she'd found out she was pregnant only about a week before showing up at my door. She said she panicked and didn't know how to tell me, especially after the way we ended things. She admitted her timing and behavior were wrong and apologized. I tried to listen with an open mind and shared how her past behavior had shattered my trust. I told her how blindsided I felt when she hit me with this news. We talked about what to do moving forward. Sarah said she wanted to keep the baby but understood if I wasn't ready to be a father. She said she wasn't going to force anything, but hoped I'd be part of the child's life. I told her I needed time. The paternity test was still non-negotiable. She agreed. We decided to wait until it was safe to do a non-invasive prenatal DNA test. It can be done after week 9, but we figured it'd be safest to wait until week 12. After the meeting, I felt a little more at ease, but still overwhelmed. I decided it was time to tell my family and close friends what was going on. I started with my parents. Saying they were shocked would be an understatement. My mom was torn between the excitement of possibly becoming a grandmother and concern about the circumstances. My dad was more skeptical, reminded me how unstable things had been with Sarah. But both supported my decision to request a paternity test and urged me to proceed carefully. Then I told Mike. He was surprised but understanding. He said he'd be there for me no matter what I decided. He even suggested I speak with a lawyer just to understand my rights and responsibilities, just in case. Over the next couple of weeks, Sarah and I kept in touch through text. She kept me updated on doctor visits and how she was feeling. It was strange building a new kind of communication with someone I had such a complicated history with. Then, about a week ago, everything changed. About a week ago, Sarah called me in a panic. She said she was bleeding and on her way to the hospital. Without even thinking, I rushed there. The next few hours were a blur: tests, anxious waiting, conversations with doctors. And then came the news. Sarah had miscarried. The doctor explained that, unfortunately, This happens quite often in early pregnancy and that no one was to blame. I was stunned. I hadn't even had time to fully process the idea of becoming a father, and suddenly it was all over. Sarah was devastated, and despite everything between us, seeing her like that was painful. I stayed with her at the hospital until she was discharged. On the ride to her place, we barely spoke. Once we got inside, she broke down. She apologized again for how she'd acted, said she had been scared and didn't know how to handle things. She admitted that her past behavior, the jealousy, the accusations, had been wrong. She said, the miscarriage made her realize just how much damage she'd caused between us. I sat there, listening, overwhelmed with emotions. Part of me mourned the loss, even though I wasn't sure I wanted to be a father. Another part of me felt relief. And then came the guilt. And deep down, a lingering doubt, was all of it even real? I asked her if she had told anyone else about the pregnancy. She said no, she'd planned to wait until the end of the first trimester to tell her family and friends. So at that point, only my parents, Mike, and I knew. That night, we talked. 4 hours. About the pregnancy, our broken relationship, what happens next. Sarah said she wanted to start therapy to work on her jealousy and trust issues. She didn't ask to get back together or try to manipulate me, and I genuinely appreciated that. I told her I needed time and space to process everything. She understood and agreed it was best if we didn't see each other for a while. When I left her apartment that night, I felt emotionally drained, but also relieved. The emotional rollercoaster of the past weeks had worn me down completely. Now, a week later, I'm still trying to make sense of it all. I've started seeing a therapist to help unpack my feelings around everything that happened. It's been helpful to talk to someone neutral. I've also done a lot of reflecting on my relationship with Sarah and on my own behavior. I still believe I was right to ask for proof of the pregnancy, but I can also see that there were moments where I could have communicated better or been more empathetic to her insecurities. Since then, Sarah and I have exchanged a few messages. She started therapy and says it's helping her understand her actions. She apologized again, not just for how she told me about the pregnancy, but for everything that happened during our relationship. I don't know what the future holds. I doubt we'll ever have a romantic relationship again. Too much has happened. But I'm open to the idea that, once we've both healed, we might be able to be friends. As for whether the pregnancy was real, honestly, I'll never know for sure. The documents look legit, and the hospital did confirm the miscarriage. But given our history, a part of me still wonders. For my own peace of mind, I've chosen to believe it was real and let it go. I've learned a lot from this experience, about communication, about trust, about how past behavior can echo into the present. I'm trying to take those lessons and grow, as a person and as a future partner. My parents and Mike have been incredibly supportive throughout all of this. They listened when I needed to vent, offered advice when I asked, and were just there. I'm grateful to have that kind of support. Reading back on my first post, I see how confused and in shock I was. I still believe I did the right thing by demanding proof, but I also now understand better where Sarah might have been coming from. Fear and hormones can make people act irrationally. For those who asked in the comments, no, I didn't tell our mutual friends what happened. Sarah and I agreed to keep this between us. Sharing it would have only added unnecessary drama. Work, thankfully, has settled down. The awkwardness with Emily and the rest of the team is mostly gone. I've thrown myself into projects, and that's helped distract me from the chaos in my personal life. I know this update might not be what people expected. Life rarely wraps up in neat, logical endings. It's messy and complicated and often leaves more questions than answers. I'm still processing everything and imagine it'll take a while to fully let go. But I'm moving forward, one day at a time, focused on healing and growth. Thanks again to everyone who supported me. Your advice and empathy truly helped me get through one of the hardest periods of my life. If anything significant happens, I'll be sure to post another update. But for now, I'm just trying to live, learn from this, and focus on building a better future. I really wanted my last update to be the end of this story. It felt like some kind of closure, but life had other plans. It's been about 2 months since the last update, and I'm still furious about everything that's happened. I truly thought things with Sarah couldn't get more twisted. I was wrong, very, very wrong. After the miscarriage, Sarah and I barely spoke. Occasionally, she texted updates about her therapy, and I'd respond politely. I was still trying to move on and rebuild my life. Work was going well. I got deep into a new project, which helped. My relationships at the office, even with Emily, had pretty much normalized. I even started considering dating again, though I hadn't gone on any dates yet. Then, about 3 weeks ago, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a man's voice asked if it was me. He introduced himself as Robert and said we needed to talk. About Sarah. My stomach dropped. I asked who he was, and he said he was Sarah's ex. Apparently, they dated for a few weeks during a break Sarah and I had taken in our relationship. I remembered that break. We'd had a massive fight and didn't speak for almost 2 months. Robert said he'd recently learned about the pregnancy and the miscarriage from Sarah, and that he had some information I needed to know. We agreed to meet the next evening at a local bar. The next 24 hours were pure anxiety. My mind ran wild with possibilities. Part of me didn't want to know, but I also knew I couldn't avoid it. When I met Robert, he turned out to be surprisingly normal. Same age as me, seemed sane. We got a beer, and he went straight to the point. Sarah lied to you, he said. The baby wasn't yours. It was mine. It felt like I'd been punched. In the gut. Robert explained that he and Sarah had continued seeing each other, on and off, even after she and I got back together. Their last time together was about a week before Sarah and I officially broke up. He showed me a long thread of messages between him and Sarah, stretching over months. In them, Sarah complained about how unhappy she was with me, said she was only staying because she was afraid to be alone. There were messages from around the time she learned she was pregnant. She was panicking and unsure what to do. And then I saw the message that made my blood boil. It was from Sarah to Robert, just days before she showed up at my door claiming to be pregnant. I have a plan, she wrote. I'll tell me. It's his baby. He makes good money and always wanted kids. He'll take care of us. I couldn't believe what I was reading. She hadn't just cheated. She deliberately tried to trick me into raising another man's child. Robert said he felt guilty after the miscarriage and believed I deserved to know the truth. I thank him for his honesty, even though part of me wished I hadn't learned any of it. We drank in silence for a while. Before leaving, Robert apologized for his role in all this. I didn't hate him. I didn't even blame him. I appreciated that he had the courage to tell me. After he left, I sat there alone for a long time, trying to process what I'd just heard. I think the bartender picked up on it. He gave me the next drink on the house. I went home completely numb. I couldn't eat or sleep. The next day, I called in sick. I needed space to think. I spent the entire day flipping between rage and disbelief. How could Sarah do this to me? How could she lie so easily, so coldly? And how was I so blind? I thought about all her accusations, all the jealousy, the spying, the fights. It was all projection. She was the one cheating the entire time. After a day of spiraling thoughts, I realized I couldn't just sit with this. I needed to confront her. I messaged Sarah and asked to meet. She agreed. We met at the same coffee shop where she had shown me the ultrasound photos. The moment she saw my face, she knew something was wrong. Before she could say anything, I laid it all out, the meeting with Robert, the messages, everything I now knew. For a second, it looked like she was going to deny it. But then she broke down in tears. She started apologizing, saying she never meant for it to go that far. She said she was scared, desperate, and that if I had accepted the baby as mine, maybe, things could have worked out. I asked her how she could do something so cruel, how she could lie about something so serious, try to trap me into raising someone else's child. She said she was afraid, that she didn't know what else to do, and that she truly believed we could have been happy. I told her what she did was unforgivable, that she didn't just destroy my trust, she was willing to drag an innocent child into her web of lies. I said I never wanted to see or hear from her again. I urged her to continue therapy because she clearly needed help. Then I got up and walked out, ignoring her sobbing pleas for me to stay and talk. The next few days passed in a blur. I told my parents and Mike everything. They were furious. My mom even wanted to call Sarah and give. her a piece of her mind, but I asked her not to. I just wanted to put it all behind me. I also decided to tell a few of our mutual friends. I figured Sarah might try to twist the story, and I wanted to get ahead of it. I didn't go into detail, just said she'd cheated and lied about the pregnancy. Most of them had no idea what had been going on. They were shocked, and many expressed support. One friend admitted she had suspected Sarah of cheating. She'd seen her with another guy once or twice but wasn't sure it was serious. She apologized for not saying anything earlier. It hurt a little, but I understood why she didn't want to get involved. At work, I finally told Emily the whole story. She was incredibly understanding and supportive. She said she'd always sensed something was off with Sarah, but didn't want to speak badly about my girlfriend at the time. Emily and I had grown closer through all of this, and I was starting to see her in a different light. Who knows, maybe there's something between us in the future. As for Sarah, I haven't seen or heard from her since that coffee shop meeting. I blocked her number, blocked her on every platform. One mutual friend told me she moved back in with her parents and is continuing therapy. A part of me hopes she really gets the help she needs. But mostly, I just want her gone from my life for good. Looking back on our relationship, I now see how toxic it was. Her jealousy and insecurity weren't just quirks, they were signs of much deeper issues. I should have ended it way earlier. I've thought a lot about why I stayed. I think I was afraid of being alone. I believed I could fix her, that if I just tried hard enough, she'd learn to trust me. And honestly, I hate admitting this, but part of me liked feeling needed, even if it was in a messed up way. One of the hardest parts has been letting go of the future I'd started to imagine. Even though I doubted the pregnancy, a small part of me had started to wonder what kind of father I'd be. And when that future was suddenly gone, then revealed to be a lie, it broke me. But there's relief, too. Relief that I found out the truth before it was too late. Relief that I'm not tied to Sarah forever. In the past few weeks, I've focused on myself. I've started running again, something I used to love but gave up during my relationship. I've been reading more, spending time with friends, even considering a solo trip somewhere new. Work has been a great distraction. I dove headfirst into a new project, and my manager noticed. He hinted that if I keep it up, a promotion might be on the horizon. As for dating, I'm not ready for another relationship just yet. I need time to heal, to trust again. But I've learned a lot from all this, about myself, about relationships, about trust. I've learned to listen to my gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Here's the one thing I hope you take away from this story. Trust is everything. And once it's gone, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. Don't stay in a relationship where you're constantly doubting your partner or yourself. And when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. As for me, I'm moving forward. Some days are tough, but overall, I'm okay. I'm hopeful about the future, whatever it brings. And I know now that no matter what I face, I'll get through it. This will be my final update on this situation. It's time to close this chapter for good. It's been about 10 months since my last update. Honestly, I didn't think I'd ever post again. I thought the chapter titled Sarah was finally closed. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs just when you least expect them. After everything that happened with Sarah, and especially after learning the truth about the pregnancy, I focused entirely on myself. I dove into work, stayed consistent with therapy, and started rebuilding my social life. And overall, things were going really well. The promotion my manager hinted at? It happened. I now lead my own team on a major project. It's demanding, but incredibly rewarding. Emily and I continued working side by side. I'll admit, there was definitely some flirtatious tension between us. We hadn't crossed any lines, mostly because I was still cautious after everything with Sarah. But the chemistry was undeniable. And then, about a month ago, everything flipped again. I was picking up groceries after work when I ran straight into Robert. Yep, that Robert. Sarah's ex. The guy who told me the truth about the baby. We both froze for a second, completely caught off guard. Then he smiled awkwardly and suggested we grab coffee and catch up. I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to reopen old wounds, but curiosity won. I agreed. Over coffee, Robert filled me in on everything that had happened with Sarah since we last spoke. After our confrontation, she'd had a total breakdown. She quit her job, moved back in with her parents, and began intensive therapy. Robert stayed in touch with her family, mostly because he still felt a strange sense of responsibility for her condition. And then he said the one thing I didn't see coming: Sarah is pregnant again. And this time, the child is definitely his. They didn't get back together, but is committed to being involved as a father. He admitted he was nervous, given their rocky history, but said Sarah had made a lot of progress in therapy. She was working on her trust issues, recognizing her manipulative behavior, and genuinely trying to get better. Still, he remained cautious. As we were wrapping up, Robert hesitated, then said, "There's one more thing. Sarah's been asking about you. She wants to apologize, in person, for everything." I told him I'd think about it, but I wasn't promising anything. Over the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I discussed it with my therapist, trying to sort through the mess of emotions. On one hand, I owed her nothing. What she did was inexcusable. I had every right to keep her out of my life. But on the other hand, a small part of me wondered if a face-to-face apology might bring some final closure. So, after a lot of thought, I told Robert the first was open to a one-time meeting, nothing more. We agreed to meet in a public park on a Saturday afternoon. I chose the location carefully, neutral and open, just in case. When I saw Sarah, I barely recognized her. She looked smaller, like she'd lost her confidence. She sat down beside me on the bench, leaving space between us. We were silent for a moment. Then she took a deep breath and began. "I know nothing I say can undo what I did," she said quietly. "But I need you to know how deeply sorry I am for everything. For cheating, for lying, for trying to pass off someone else's baby as yours. It's unforgivable. And I'll carry that shame for the rest of my life." She told me she had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. That had explained, but didn't excuse, her past actions. She was in intensive therapy now, learning how to manage her emotions and insecurities in healthier ways. "I'm not saying this to ask for forgiveness," she added. "I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know how much I regret what I did, and how sorry I am for the pain I caused." When she finished, I sat in silence for a while, collecting my thoughts. Then I told her that I appreciated the apology, truly, but I couldn't forgive her. The wounds were still too deep, the betrayal too complete. But I did hope she would keep going with therapy, and that she'd become the kind of mother she wanted to be. She nodded, thanked me for hearing her out. As she got up to leave, she paused and said, "I really am happy for you. Robert told me about your promotion, and about Emily. I hope it works out. You deserve to be happy." And with that, she walked away. I sat on that bench for a long time, just breathing. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't emotional. It was quiet, final, a peaceful closing of a chapter that had consumed me for too long. It's been a few weeks since that meeting. I've done a lot of reflecting about Sarah, about us, about everything that happened. I realized that while I can't forgive her, I can let go of the anger. Not for her, for me. Holding on to it was only weighing me down. Letting it go feels like finally setting myself free. As for my personal life, things are looking up. Remember that subtle spark between me and Emily? A week after I met with Sarah, Emily and I finally talked about the tension. We decided to give it a shot, to start dating, openly and honestly. We agreed to keep things professional at work, and told our boss immediately to avoid any issues. It's early, but it feels completely different than what I had with Sarah. There's trust, communication, mutual respect, something real. My friends and family have been supportive. Mike joked that he always thought Emily and I would end up together. My parents are just relieved to see me happy again. And work. It's thriving. The project I'm leading is on track. The team is solid. And for the first time in a long while, I feel like I'm building something, professionally and personally. I've chosen not to stay in contact with Sarah or Robert. Robert checks in from time to time, and I appreciate it, but I've made it clear I'm no longer part of that story. I wish them well, but that chapter is closed. I don't know what the future holds. My relationship with Emily is still new. My career has its own challenges. Life is unpredictable. But for the first time in a long time, I'm hopeful. I feel like I've been given a second chance, a chance to apply everything I've learned and build the kind of life I want. This is the final update to this story. It's time to close this door and focus on what's ahead. Thank you to everyone who stuck with me through this insane ride, for your advice, your support, and your words of encouragement. Here's to new beginnings, hard-earned wisdom, and the endless possibilities that lie ahead. Well, thank you for listening to this story until the end. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Personally, I'm really glad it all ended the way it did, and I wouldn't wish this kind of situation on anyone. Now, go check out our previous videos, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Good luck.